Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? It's your boy, comedian Edgar Rivera, and I'm joined today by my brothers, comedian Eric Nieves and Dr. Dan Radner, and you're listening to Brothers in Arms, a new way for men to talk. What's up, brothers?
How you doing? That good? Dr. Dan?
Great to see you guys.
Yeah, good. Good to see you guys too, man. I mean, I'm happy to see you guys. I look forward to this every week now. This is my therapy every week. Boom, I'm here.
Hey, I was even excited to come on vacation. That's how much we like this show.
Dr. Dan is
right.
out of vacation. How does it feel to be out of vacation, Dr. Dan?
Surprisingly good. It's always good to get back. The night before is like, oh, I don't know. That felt really good to be on vacation. But now I'm back. I'm feeling good.
Nice. How was it?
Did you go right back to work, or did you give yourself a day or two to decompress? I always give myself at least a day or two before I go back to work because I'm just not ready.
Yeah, I did give myself a day, and I still wasn't ready. I freely admit it. On this show, we talk real. I was not ready, but then once I got into it, it was all good.
Nice, man. So was it fun? Was it worth it?
It was really worth it. Everybody out there, you got to take care of yourself some. Mm-hmm. It's good to give yourself things. Every day, try to give yourself something.
Yeah, true that, man. True that. What about you, Eric? How you been, brother?
I've been good, man. I've been I've been thinking nonstop about Dr. Dan's music career ever since he mentioned it last week. All I could think about, now I see him as Dr. Dan, but more of a Dr. Dre type Dr. Dan. Like he's gonna come out with headphones like Beats by Dan. And it only plays like positive, affirmative music because he's a therapist. So I'm like, I'm dying to hear Dr. Dan drop some music. I'm sorry. I look. I know, and I know we're gonna review last week's show because it was so powerful. But another thing I walked away with is I want to hear some Dr. Dan, man. So sometime soon, Dr. Dan, we got to hear a cut, or it's got to be our opening song. We got to do something.
I love it. I listen. I'm a big music guy. You'll be surprised, but I'll tell you, it does not resemble Dr. Dre at all.
Well, he started somewhere. He was an intern too. You don't just jump to doctor. He had to go to medical school.
I just, 90s hip hop is not my thing. Even though we remember we actually did a take that ended up not airing this, but you asked me if I knew OPP, and I did. So I'm just putting that on record that I do know that.
There you go. For all of his professional credentials, his most prideful moment is, I know what OPP is.
I'm not right.
So Dr. Dan, what would you consider your music? Like what genre? Wow, that's a big word for me.
Say that again,
That's a
Edgar?
great question.
I want to hit. What a great word Edgar used. Let's hear that again.
I don't know, genre.
What genre would it be? I don't know. It's its own thing. I mean, I would say it has its most overlap with like 80s pop. 80s. Believe it or not.
Even more interesting, Eric. I know this is gonna haunt you the whole week now. Now this whole week we're going to
80s pop? Well, no, that's in my wheelhouse, man. I came up with 80s pop. What? I can sing Karma Chameleon right now if you want me to. I'll rock that.
I think we should. All right, we're gonna do that for the viewers out there. Soon you'll hear my music and Eric singing Karma Chameleon.
No, you will not hear singing Karma Chameleon because we want to get people to therapy, not be the cause that they seek therapy
fair enough.
for. Yeah, I don't want to be someone that pushes someone over the edge and put them in a bad place.
So yeah, man, fellas. For me, the week was good. I had a good week. Been hectic. I'm going on vacation now. I'm going on vacation actually tomorrow. So, nice. I'm excited for that week in Puerto Rico with the family. So I can't complain, and looking forward to seeing the family actually. And other than that, man, I did a couple of shows, real good shows, always good to get back on stage. It's not as much as I wish at times, but just the fact that I can still get on, it's great. It's kind of weird, still because, you do a show. I don't know about you, Eric, but there's people that sit there and they take off their mask and they laugh at you, and then there's people that have the mask on, like the whole time they're there. Like they literally do this to take a sip, and then they boom, put it back down. So I did a show this week, and there was a lady in the front, and she had her mask on the whole show, and she only took it down to show me that she was laughing.
She didn't want you to feel bad. Like, no, I'm laughing.
Imagine you lift it up and cover your eyes. Yeah, I'm laughing. But I'm just grateful to be back on and happy to be here with you guys, man. Last week, we had a real good episode last week, I believe. It was real, deep. And this week I would like to continue that episode. So before we get into it, I wanna, like I said, the viewer, I heard back from the viewer, from last week's viewer, and she was very grateful, Dr. Dan. She said, thank you so much. She sent me the longest email. She basically admitted to me that she cried during the whole episode just watching it, and was very happy with your words and yours too, Eric. I mean, both of you guys. So this week I didn't really get any questions, but I have a couple of questions, and Eric might have a question. So you want to shoot first, Eric?
Yeah, actually, Dan.
So I threw him under the bus real quick. I was like, oh shit.
That's okay. We know the question is going to be about my music career anyway. So go ahead.
When you say 80s pop,
See.
what's your favorite 80s song? Now, I know it's a tough question, but like when I say 80s pop song, what pops in your head?
Well, listen, there's two. I'm going to answer this question seriously, but the other thing I'll say, and this is really interesting, my musical taste is very based on being sincere, like just being open, and that's why I love that time period. Talk about times where men actually just talked. Like, if you want to find men who actually talk, go to 80s music. They did. To me, there's two types of 80s music. There's alternative rock, like The Cure are my second favorite band, and like Just Like Heaven. But if you're looking for like 80s, just like those kind of one-hit wonders that were just amazing, there's so many great ones. I'd have to think about it. I got to think more about what's my favorite 80s song.
Well, now you have a mission for next week.
Now you have homework.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
that sounds good.
I actually do have. I do have a
question. I thought it was a joke.
Wait, actually, you know what? It's funny. I do have one answer of a song that I just happen to love that a lot of people don't, and it's called "Live to Tell." It's the Madonna song.
Oh yeah,
and
I
we're
know that
talking
song.
about talking and living to tell. That's weird that came.
That was from the movie At Close Range.
Okay, I didn't remember that.
With Sean Penn, that she was married to him at the time.
Yep.
Nice.
80s child, baby. No, but I do have a serious question.
Yeah.
I think, and it's funny that Edgar brought up the topic about people just kind of doing different things and with the mask and stuff. And I think people don't know what to believe anymore. I think people are just kind of like doing whatever is going to make them feel comfortable. They're just going to listen to what they want to listen to. Are you seeing a rise in the anxiety in the people that you're treating and the people that you're talking to? Because, at the beginning of the summer, they said we didn't have to wear masks anymore. And all of a sudden that got reversed. And then the variant came about. Have you been seeing a rise in just the level of stress that people are dealing with right now? And what advice would you give people, when they don't know what to believe anymore?
That's such a great question, both of them. But first of all, yes, I am seeing a rise in anxiety about these things. And in fact, I think it's a big topic of conversation in a lot of sessions where people are like, I don't know what to believe, or there's a lot of angst about whether to get the vaccine for some people. There's a lot of angst about the judgment that can come from either side on that. There's a lot of worry about where things are going. I do think the Delta variant is that's probably the number one thing that's adding to anxiety right now. There's also a lot of parents with kids who aren't vaccinated yet, and they're worried about their kids. My youngest is not vaccinated yet. I worry about her all the time. Even if, look, you could argue that it's irrational, and fears generally are, but it's understandable that we'd be scared about this. So with your second question, my advice to people is there's a couple of things I would say. One, do not judge what you're feeling. There's a lot of very natural feelings that come about. I would encourage you, instead of judging the feelings, just work to understand them. Why do you feel the way that you do? There's nothing to judge about it. Let's just be open to ourselves about what we're feeling about it. And then, I think in terms of what you want to do about it, I also want to put in a plug for the fact that feelings don't last. Don't get so scared that you're going to be stuck in your feelings forever. It's actually a part of the reason that talking does help with things is we talk about things and we can actually then move on from the feelings. Well, you can really do the same thing with yourself if you give yourself enough time. Give yourself a little bit of time to feel whatever you feel without the judgment, and then it naturally moves. There's a lot more I could say about it, but that's probably what I would recommend.
Makes sense. It's just, it's just crazy because, it looked like the world was opening up, and now you gotta prove vaccination in New York to do anything indoors. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how it is, Edgar, out in California. I know California went through it or was going through it. I mean, do y'all have the same? Got the same mandate?
The same thing. It hasn't, they haven't really, enforced it yet, but it's coming as well. Same thing over here as well. And over here, if you have a loved one or a family member in a hospital and you want to go see them, unless you're vaccinated, they won't let you in.
Mm-hmm.
Which is crazy,
I know a lot of comedians that said they weren't going to get it. They're deciding to get it now because they got to get booked.
Oh yeah, that's crazy. Yeah,
I know, Edgar, you were not for vaccination.
Oh, thank you, Eric, for throwing me under the bus. Dr. Dan, can you help me with this?
No, this is called keeping it real.
Okay, so no, it's okay. For me, it's the last time I got a vaccine was when my mom took me to get vaccinated. That's when she had control, and that's a lot. I can't even remember. I've never done the flu shot. I've never done anything like that, and it's crazy how this subject now, because now it's divided. Now it's divided. Now is the unvaccinated against the vaccinated. It's like they're always trying to find to like divide us. So personally, for me, I got COVID. I got COVID last year. It was no joke. I believe in COVID. I believe it's very real. I lost my mom to COVID, and it was serious to go through it, but I went through it. You know what I'm saying? I went through it, and I got through COVID, and that's why now I'm like kind of hesitant. And people are like, oh, but you don't have immunity forever. I'm saying, yeah, but I've had the COVID. So I'm like hesitant. Eventually, and I'm gonna tell you guys for the first time, you first people to actually know about it. I made up my mind that I am gonna get it, as opposed as I was to it, because I was, But if it gets to that point, Eric, where I can't work because I'm not vaccinated, it's gonna be horrible. But what I don't like is how they're forcing us to get it. I would have loved for me to say, okay, I'm gonna go get this vaccine, as opposed to no, now I have to get it because I have to make a living, But my reason for getting it is my mom. So I've been thinking about it, and I've been going crazy because I know we talked about it off the air and everything else, and I've been thinking about it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do it for her because she lost her life to COVID. And I know, and if she was here right now, dude, she'll be calling me every single day. When you gonna get vaccinated? When you gonna get vaccinated? I could just hear her every single day, driving me crazy. So the other day I was driving and I was going crazy. Everybody's trying to, compare everybody's opinions and stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it for her. I'm gonna do it for her. I'm old already. It's not like I plan to live another 50 years. I do have a mixed feelings when it comes to children, though. So I want to ask you, Dr. Knight, how do you feel about that? Because there's a lot of parents that don't want to give their children this vaccine.
Before we move on to the kids thing, Edgar, though, I want to make it like I'm for vaccination, but I respect and respect your stance about how you feel about vaccination. And you were right. It shouldn't be something we shouldn't be at each other's throats about it, because there's no real dialogue. You know what I mean? People can feel how they feel, and I know that, if you're wearing masks and doing social distancing, then maybe you don't feel like you need to get vaccinated. But the point is, I think everyone should have the right when it comes to their health care, unless it directly affects others. If you work at a hospital or certain situations, then I can kind of understand where maybe it would be mandated based on, direct contact with patients or things like that. But I think your opinion, I mean, the fact that you changed your mind, I'm not going to congratulate you, because that's just a choice you're making. It's nothing to congratulate you for. But I want to let you know that as your brother, I respected your stance, even if I don't agree with it. even though I don't, but I respect it, and I think that that's missing. That's where the real debate is getting lost, right? Right, Dr. Dan? It's like, people, you either with me or against me. The mentality is now. There is no dialogue anymore.
I think your point is very well taken and it's well said. I think what I would like to do is take out the judgment of things, whether it's a conversation with yourself or with other people, because that does shut down conversation. So let's hear what people really think and why, and let's stop making assumptions that the other person's deciding something for a ridiculous reason. Let's hear what's actually going on.
It's true, man. It's a very touchy subject nowadays, but you know what? I respect.
But everything seems to be a touchy subject these days. What's not a touchy subject anymore? It's like unless you're on 100% agreement with the person in front of you, you're wrong. And
Eric,
yes.
I don't think you should bring up touchy subjects. I think that's something we should stay away from. It's too much.
Too much.
I just don't want people. I want everyone listening, man. We're here we can't judge people. We can't judge people on their decisions. You know what I'm saying? I mean, one thing is not being vaccinated and going around and coughing on everybody. That's a different story. But like you said, we all taking precautions. We all got masks on. Like I can't. I think that's why it gets so hateful at times. Because you hear someone, I'm not vaccinated, and you automatically want to be that person to change their mind. And we shouldn't all be like that. You know what I'm saying? Just hear my opinion and then walk away. That's it, man. If I ask you for an advice on it, then it's a different story. But other than that, like, I don't judge people. Everybody has their own opinion. I felt like every time that people would ask me and I would tell them, no, I'm not vaccinated, it's a whole different, like, what? Like I'm crazy. And then you'll find someone like myself, and then they'll be like, oh, they agree. So it's always a mixed feelings. But to end it on, I mean, like, just, respect everybody's decision on it. Like I said, I'm going to do it, but I'm doing it for my mom. Because I could just hear her up there right now, like, man, do something, and it's crazy. And Eric knew my mom, so you know exactly what I'm talking.
I'm hearing the voice now in my head and exactly how she would be sounding. Yeah.
Actually, you did ask that question about kids, so let me just address that really quickly, and then we'll get into my favorite segment to introduce. We'll get into that shortly.
Yes.
But how I feel about it for my own kids is that ultimately, I feel, some of this comes down to like, well, how much do you trust the people who are doing these things? And I understand there's reasons to wonder these things, but, and I tend to be an overly trusting person. So, I take that into consideration. But when it comes to my kids, anything that could be life-threatening for them is the thing that worries me. And, at first when I heard about vaccinations, I wanted to find out more and be like, is there anything that could possibly be life-threatening to my girls about getting the vaccinations? And then I also wanted to find out, is there anything that could be life-threatening about them not getting it? And of course there is with that. So ultimately my oldest, I had her get it. And as soon as the youngest as soon as the vaccines are available for the youngest, I'll probably wait a couple weeks just to make sure I'm hearing about, is there anything weird going on with this stuff? And after that, I want them to be protected as much as they can be. But that's just my take on that.
All right. No, because I hear a lot of parents, talk about it. I know parents that'll be like, no way, I'm not giving my children that, and then there's parents that are like lining up to like throw, put
I mean, I will say I have found that the history of vaccines in my experience and what I've heard about it is that usually they go very well and they are meant for the common good. That's generally, I think, true. I'm not casting aspersions on anybody else's opinion about that, but go ahead.
I heard something today interesting, though. I saw a video, how everybody putting their videos on, and this guy, Sarah Contreras, actually sent me a video, and I saw it, and the guy made a good point. He goes, when they doing research for vaccines like this, it takes a lot of money, it takes time, it takes a lot of doctors, but the fact that the whole world is going through this, it's like there's so much funding going into it. There's so many people working on it together. Everybody's sharing, their notes and everything. So I feel like, yeah, if it was another vaccine that just we were going through it as but it's the whole world. So it's a little bit more
You feel more comfortable with it that way.
Yeah, I feel a little bit more comfortable with it because there is a lot of people working on this. It's not just a group of people, saying, boom, I created a vaccine. But I tell people, man, this, unvaccinated or vaccinated, let's just keep taking the precautions. Let's keep wearing a mask. You know what I'm saying? Keep sanitizing yourself. One thing I wish they would do here in California that they do in Puerto Rico and they don't do it here. Everywhere you go in Puerto Rico, they check your temperature and they make you sanitize your hands before you walk in. Which I wish they would did that. Did that here more often. Now everywhere you go, I mean, I see.
What kind of thermometer did they use?
A thermometer.
Yeah, to check because depending on the type of thermometer, maybe I'm not going to walk into that place. You know what I mean? No. I just want to make sure that it's one of those laser ones. I always
confuse thermometer with thermostat, but it's
well, both will get you hot. I mean, it all depends.
No, but so just to like close the subject on this and move on. Just take all the precautions. That's all we could do, people. Wear your mask. If you don't have to be in a public place or surrounded by 100 people, then don't do it. And just I know people are mad about the fact that they did tell you could take your mask off, and now they're like, no, you got to put it back on. But at the end of the day, we just got to protect ourselves, and that's all that counts. You know what I'm saying? So if I have a mask on and I'm talking to you and you're 2 feet away from me and you don't have a mask on, I'm like, oh, whatever. I'm protected, and let's just keep protecting ourselves, and let's get out of here because I feel like we will talk about this the whole hour.
Yeah. All right. So we got to get to old news.
Yes, we do.
Old news, maybe from yesterday.
That was the first sound effect, and I did it.
Got to be another Dan cut off, probably cut 12 off his album.
Oh yes. Old news, maybe from yesterday. It's a new song coming soon.
For old news, we wanted to like bring it back. We wanted to bring it back from last week. I feel like there was a lot of things that were not said last week. Like I told you guys, I don't know about you, but when I watched the episode all over again, when we finally get to see it, I'm like, oh, and it sparks up more questions and more things. So this episode, we wanted to continue it with the domestic violence and the differences and in male and female. So Eric's got the old news on that. So let's do it, buddy.
Well, yes, Edgar, first of all, thank you again for sharing that story. I mean, and sharing of yourself. I mean,
we'll talk about that. We'll definitely talk.
Just so you know. But Dr. Dan, we were discussing violence against men last week, right?
Yep.
And one of the topics we talked about was an issue of sexual violence against men. That it could be that men can be victims of sexual violence. And you had asked me, how is it broken down by gender? Like what percentages are female perpetrators? What percentage are male perpetrators? So I dug a little deeper, and I was pretty shocked to read, according to the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, that of 79% of cases where men are forced to penetrate a sexual partner, whether through force, coercion, or alcohol or drug use, 79% were female perpetrators. 79%. Wow. This other stat just blew my mind. It was talking about intimate partner violence, which is, the violence that exists between two intimate partners, whether they're married, living together, what have you. And 97% of men that reported either a rape, physical violence, or some form of stalking by an intimate partner, that partner was female. 97%.
Whoa.
So those numbers, and they're even curious if those numbers are even legitimate because of how little these crimes are actually reported, whether the victim is male or female. A lot of these times, these crimes don't get reported because they're ashamed and they think it's a personal matter that needs to be dealt in-house. So these numbers could actually even be worse. But when you hear stuff like that, I mean, what? I was surprised to learn that. Why aren't we talking more about it if it's that much of an issue?
It's a great question, and I have to say I was surprised to hear those numbers too. I mean, you remember last time I asked you the question partly because I didn't think it would be 79%, and that 97% thing. That I even need to hear again what What was the thing again? Read it.
It was intimate partner violence.
Okay.
Violence. Violence between two intimate partners, and 97% of men that reported either, not all of the above, but either reported being raped, being a victim of physical violence, or being stalked by their partner. 97% of them, the perpetrator was a female.
Wow. We're going to need to think a while about what that might mean. Let me start with the 79% though. That to me is confirmation of something we were talking about last time. And that's why I asked this question, is I wanted to know, I guess I would say that there's a perception, and it's in part an understandable one, that men can be more violent than women, generally speaking. There's plenty of stats to show that's the case, including towards themselves, in terms of suicide rates. But it's a pretty important statistic to show that there's a significant number of assaults or rapes or whatever you would want to call it, abuse, that comes from women against men. And you're asking, well, why doesn't it get talked about? Well, I think in a way, this is right in our wheelhouse. This is a show about the things we can't talk about. And when it comes down to it, it all comes down to shame. If there's anything that people in general are ashamed about, it's less likely to be talked about. It happens, we could think of many different kinds of issues that don't get talked about. Here's a great example of something that now does get talked about that didn't. When I was growing up, I went to high school in the 90s mostly, late 80s, 90s, and coming out of the closet was something that people just did not talk about for the most part, which, like, to me, when I think about it now, it's just shocking that I grew up in that kind of era. But I think we've taken away a lot of the shame of it by talking about it. And I think we're finding other areas like this where, okay, maybe we need to talk about it more to take away the shame and have it be something we can talk about. That's my main answer to that. What do you guys think?
From my personal experience from last week's Walking the Walk, I could tell you that shame has a lot to do with it. Yes, as a man, you know what I'm saying? I couldn't even go up to Eric and say, Eric, you know what, this is happening. Because it's just something about us as being men. Like, no man wants to admit that. You know what I'm saying? I see it completely different now. I wish I would have came up. I wish I would have went up to Eric and told him what was going on. I wish I could have said it out to the whole world, but I don't know why I kept on hiding it. And I guess when you hide it once, maybe okay, but 2, 3, and it just becomes a pattern. Now it's just normal. Now I'm waiting for something to happen. Now I'm waiting for the snap. I'm waiting for this. So it was very hard to hide it and talk about it. And I've been thinking about it the whole week. I've been going crazy thinking about the whole week of why didn't I walk away? Why didn't I just say I need help? You know what I'm saying? And I haven't found the answer yet. But I could tell you that shame probably was the number one up there. And I'm pretty sure every guy out there listening to us right now who's been through this personally could tell you probably the same thing, and it's hard. It's not easy, man,
Well, and they're not, none of us are hearing the examples of it. I mean, it's another reason that I want to applaud you for doing it. You're probably helping a lot of people in bringing it out there, but if we, and Eric, actually, you doing the research and bringing these statistics out is very important too, because people need to hear these things. That, if we think that no one else experiences them, we don't talk about it. And I don't care what it is. You could be like, it's funny because we were gonna do our segment on breaking the mold, which is we were gonna talk about like men who like romantic comedies, and that gets talked about some, but like that doesn't get talked about enough, so that people are like, no, I'm not gonna admit that. Even little things like that. You then take it on a big level about shame. And, if you don't know that a lot of people have this experience, then you're going to be more likely to be like, well, I guess there's something wrong with me. Look, I even had it about my back pain. There was shame about that. I didn't want to talk about it because I was looking around and nobody was talking about it. I mean, there were older people who had back pain, but not younger people. So I was like, I guess I just won't talk about it. There's something wrong with me. And that's a much smaller thing than what you talked about, even though it was still pretty big. So when it comes down to it, I think it's about knowing that other people have these experiences. There aren't weird experiences that nobody else has had. You know, generally speaking, these things are all happening.
I think we're not going to get into breaking the mold, but I am breaking the mold. If you
Right.
really think about it, this
Right.
is breaking the mold. You
The,
know,
the whole show is breaking the
you
mold.
guys and everyone listening, my name is Edgar, and I was in a domestic abusive relationship. Not everyone will say that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so this is a breaking the mold for everyone listening and viewing. That's me admitting something that I kept inside for a very long time. And God knows what it did to me. God knows what it did to me. God knows how it affected me that I haven't even realized yet, because that's what we know it is. So we are.
Let's shift into actually, you know, the second part of Walking the Walk, where we're going to talk about, well, what did it do to you? And I know you don't know that, and I know we don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is kind of an exploration, but I think the place to start is asking, what are some of the things that you think it may have done to you, or what are some of the experiences you had?
So before we get into it, let's introduce walking the walk. So we're gonna go into walking the walk, right? Walking the walk, if you're listening for the first time, viewing for the first time, is where we take this time to express ourselves, to talk about something that's bothering us now, later, back, and we get up here. We don't only preach that it's okay to talk and it's okay to vent out. We got to show it ourselves. And last week, I shared something with you guys that was very deep and personal, and it's crazy because it affected me. It affected me a lot. You know, after we recorded last week, the cameras came off, and I felt good. I felt good that I actually got it off my chest. You know, it felt good to share something. And I've been meaning to tell you this, Dr. Dan. I've never, ever seen a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Never. Now, I don't know why, and I think it's more of the Latino, stereotype that we talked about in the very beginning of the episodes, how Latinos, if you see a therapist, you're considered crazy, you're cuckoo. I've never seen a therapist, and it's crazy how we do this show, and it's like I'm seeing a therapist, and I'm actually showing the whole world what my therapy sessions are, which is insane. I was thinking about that. But last week, I went into my own head, like, okay, I felt good. I talked about it. I said it out loud. It creeped me out. But then I went into my own head, like, okay, now what happens? Now I'm thinking, how did this affect me? How has this affected all my relationships after this? You know what I'm saying? Is this the reason why I try extra hard? Like we talked about in our other sessions, Dr. Dan, and so it was crazy. It was crazy to share this with the world. I want everybody listening and viewing that wasn't easy. That wasn't easy for me. It wasn't easy for me, let alone to hide it for so many years. And Eric is one of my best friends, and Eric knows practically a lot of things about me. And Eric didn't even know that, So it wasn't easy for me to open up and share. But you know what? It made me feel good at the moment. And then I went into my own head and I started getting doubts. I was like, okay, what are people gonna think about me? What am I gonna hear? What are they gonna say behind my back?
Edgar, what were you worried that people might say? Because I think sometimes when you identify that, you get to some of the heart of what the shame might have been about. What are you worried they would say?
I think I was speaking for myself and everyone out there, every guy out there that's probably gone through this. It's like, you think you feel less of a man. You know what I'm saying? Like the judgment you will get from another man and be like, oh, that would never happen to me. Hell no, I'm the man. You know what I'm saying? Like that, like it can happen. It cannot happen to them. So I think it was more of that, like what would the guys think of me? You know what I'm saying? What would they even believe me? Or what my family's gonna think, And it was, I guess it gets to a point, and once we start hiding, it's the worst thing ever.
Yeah, there's something I wanted to say about this, and I'm curious what you both think about this. But Edgar, particularly you, because this is your experience. But I do think one of the things that we have to do in speaking out about our truths is we have to recognize that the other people actually have no clue, unless they've been through it. They have no clue about what it might be like. Like you might find that some people will actually say, well, why didn't you just leave? Or some ridiculous thing like that. They don't understand. You have, there's an internal logic to why you did what you did, and it's not stupid. I guarantee you, whatever it was that you were doing, it wasn't from being stupid or not brave or not smart or any of those things. It is not about that. And when people comment on it with those comments, you got to remember those are defensive comments. They're trying to protect themselves from even thinking about, well, what if this happened to me? They don't want to even go there. But there's going to be a lot of other people. So you can kind of dismiss those people who are not really approaching it from a kind of intellectually honest standpoint or emotionally honest standpoint. But the people who will really engage about it are more going to ask questions like, okay, well, let me find out more about why this might happen. That's how I feel about it. I'm like, okay, well, let me find out more about what happened that would lead to that. Because you got reasons. Whatever it is, you got good reasons for it.
It's crazy because how you were talking about, Eric, remember you were saying the 98% being stalked.
Yeah, 97%.
I was in this relationship for almost 7 years, and it's crazy how much we could hide something inside. Like when I told you after these 7 years, I call them the black years of my life because I don't remember them. I blocked them out so much that I don't remember. I don't, and then opening up last week and thinking about it, I think of everything that actually did happen. All the incidents that were signs, for people to be like, yo, what are you doing? And after we split, I went through the stalking phase. Then she popped up everywhere. I had to stop doing comedy. I couldn't post where I was at. She would pop up in my job. It was just insane. It was insane. And it's crazy because when you're in that, when you're in a relationship like that, and then you get out and you meet someone else and it's completely different, and you're like, oh man, this is wow, this is completely different. So from when I stepped away and I left, I had to hide completely. I couldn't post nothing. I couldn't do nothing because everywhere I went, she would pop up, and make a scene and make an argument or just do a scene. So I locked myself in a cave and then I met someone else and then I jumped right into that. Like instantly. I was the girl for 7 years, nothing happened. And then instantly met someone that was remotely normal, appreciated me, respected what I did, found me funny, great. And you start, and then I got married in a heartbeat, and that was my second marriage. And then that didn't work. That lasted a couple of years, and then she's my second wife is my best friend. I love her to death. She feels probably the same way about me. We tell each other everything. I could talk to her now about everything. But thinking about it last week and opening up, I mean, like, damn, this is the action to that. Me walking away from this abusive relationship, meeting somebody that's remotely normal, and then like jumping the gun and then realizing, look, this is not, I didn't take that time to heal. I didn't take that time to talk.
You know what that's making me think of? You said something that you said that somebody might say like, oh, what are you doing, if they saw the signs. But I want to see if we can, just as a society, change the question from what are you doing to what's happening to you. You hear the difference? It's like, it's radically different. Instead of putting the blame on you, you're locating yourself as someone who's having an experience that is maybe not easy to deal with or not easy to understand. And if we do that, then we can maybe help people prevent taking on the trauma in the same way. Because, like, we all have traumas of various kinds, just a bad experience that impacts us. And that's what you're saying, Edgar, is like this experience, had a big impact on you. It led to all kinds of things. And I want to encourage you, cut yourself a lot of slack about that, because that's what traumas are. They are experiences that impact us, whether we like it or not. And that's why I like the idea of changing it from what are you doing, which can have a kind of judgmental side to it, to what happened to you, which is empathic.
I want to ask you, Eric, because you were a part of my life when I went through this, and you didn't know nothing. And thinking about it now, man, I wish I would have talked. You know what I'm saying? I wish I would have opened up. I wish I would never. I don't know why I kept on hiding it, even after we broke up. When I got all the questions of, "Oh, what happened? You guys were great together. What happened?" You know, and then you don't want to bash no one. I've learned that you don't want to be that person and be like, "Oh man," because everybody, when you notice that people break up, it's always the other person's fault. No one ever admits if it was their fault. You always badmouth the other person. You never hear someone say, "Yo, it was my fault." So I've learned that, and like I didn't want to tell everyone, "Oh, we just didn't get along, whatever." And I always got the question, "But you guys were great together." So how did that feel to you, Eric? Hearing me saying that last week, knowing that you were a part of my life then.
It's a great question. It makes me feel a couple of things. First of all, I feel how much you must have totally suppressed your personality and just flew on autopilot, because I saw no sign. I saw nothing that told me that this was happening to you, that it was even close to happening. So first of all, I feel for you, because you lost a chunk of your life, yet that you had to pretend to be this smiling person, a comedian no less. Mm-hmm. And you showed nothing that would indicate, that this was going on. And I think you could say that not only for yourself, but for a lot of victims of domestic violence, and that they get really good at leading a double life, a completely fabricated life, and that they can't even share with their closest friends and family. So my heart breaks a little that I wasn't able to be there for you then. Makes me even more proud of the fact that you're talking about it, because I think it needs to be talked about. But I mean, you said it yourself, right? And like, no one in your life had a clue or an inkling, right? I mean, not one person. Did any of her friends know? Do you know if her friends know what she was doing to you?
I have no idea, honestly. That's a good question, man. No, none of her friends ever, like, I mean, I guess it's different when you have female friends. They tend to stick with their girls, like guys tend to stick with but no one ever had the concern. And I'm pretty sure a few people noticed it, because there was times that I couldn't hide it. You know what I'm saying? There was times that my family definitely noticed it. You know what I'm saying? I know they noticed that it wasn't normal, but then they saw us always. And, I tell people it's crazy, because you don't really know a relationship until you walk past those doors when they walk into their life. You know what I'm saying? And once we leave the house, everything is beautiful and dandy. But you want to really know a relationship, go into their bedroom and see what they talk about at night before they go to bed. So I would say my family did notice. And I had a few friends that would be like, "Yo, dude, why don't you just get out?" And I don't know why I did it, dude. I guess when I love hard. I tend to forgive people, which is weird, because I could hold a grudge as well, but I tend to forgive people. And I guess it's that thing that we always think about, like, maybe it'll change, maybe it'll change, and I think the biggest problem for me, and this is me realizing now after speaking last week, is when something like this happens to you, and that a trauma like this happens, if you keep it inside one time, that's it. That's the worst enemy. And that's why we're doing this right now. That's why we're talking about this now. Because if this would have happened now, and I tell myself, I can't tell no one, if it happens again, now it becomes easy for you to hide it. Now it becomes a pattern. Now I'm a professional at hiding these things. And obviously this is what happened with me. I was a professional at hiding it, unless it was a physical physical damage. You know what I'm saying? Like something, and then even that I will hide. Oh, I got hit or whatever the case may be. So I think the one of the lessons that I've learned from it is when something happens, speak on it right away, because you create a monster when you don't. And it's crazy that it took me 13 years. 13 years. It's been 13, like 14 years about this, and I'm like, I hid that for 14 years, and I've told a couple of people, like I said, and but it was never, no, I don't know why, dude. I don't know why. And I hope that the more I think about it now, I could analyze it and see, like, what the hell was I going through,
Let me just add one thing, Edgar, that maybe could shed some light on something for you, but also just I think is interesting for our viewers to think about, which is when you don't talk about something, the shame grows. Because then you have shame about the original event, and then you have shame about not talking about it on top of it. You're like, I don't know why I didn't say it. And it's like, I mean, think about your relationship with Eric here. It's like, you could go to him like 3 months after that and be like, I don't know why I didn't talk about it. But, 13, 14 years later, coming to him and saying, I don't know, I didn't talk to you about it all that time. I'm not saying to judge that, because I don't judge that at all. But I could see how somebody in the situation, themselves, could totally judge it and be like, oh, well, now it's kind of like, if you lie about something and then you have a chance to break through and reveal that it was a lie and you come clean, but you don't do that. Well, now you got shame about that too. So shame can build on shame. And that often happens. It's just it's a point I wanted just to throw out there. And I don't know if that fits with your experience of it, but I would imagine it would. I want the thing I'd want you to counter that with is true empathy, because shame's bad enough, but shame on top of shame, on top of shame, on top of shame. I understand why you didn't say anything. I absolutely understand why you didn't say anything. And I understand why the longer it went, the more likely you wouldn't say anything.
So now let me ask you something, Dr. Dan. Should I keep looking for those answers? So I guess the question would be, now that I opened up and we're showing the viewers this example of me saying something and thinking about it more, should I look for those answers within myself, or is this something that I could say, okay, you know what? I recognized it. It happened. Move on.
Well, it's a little hard for me to answer because different people are going to have different responses to that. But I think in your gut what you want to do. And I think, and I will say this, just generally I can put in a plug for, it's good to keep searching for answers. I mean, it's one thing if you are obsessively thinking about the answers and you're bashing yourself over the head with it and you're not living your life because you're looking for those answers. But short of that, getting to peace with yourself and getting answers is good. And I also want to encourage people out there, you can get to the answers. Asking the questions is the key. So I'm not telling you definitely do that, but at the same time, if you have any inkling to do that, I would move in that direction.
No, because I've been thinking a lot. I mean, ever since last week, I've just been thinking and why, and it's opened my eyes to a few incidents, relationships afterwards, that I've been like, oh, this could have been that. You know what I'm saying? This could have been a part of that. And going back to the hiding, it becomes like I said, once you hide something, it just becomes easier. And you bury it down and you feel like, okay, you forget about it. Like life goes on. It's like when something is bothering us, God forbid you get a COVID scare, or you were in contact with someone who's positive, and now your mind starts thinking, oh my God, I can't breathe, I can't do this, and you go crazy, and it's crazy because it's trauma at the time, but then the second day it dies down, and the third day now you don't worry about it so much. Now by the fourth day you're like, okay, whatever. And that's what happens. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I want the viewers to know that if something is bothering you now, get it out your chest right now. Don't think about it. Don't say, "Oh, I'm gonna talk about it with somebody tomorrow. I might say something tomorrow." No, man, get it off your chest as soon as possible, because we could be our own worst enemies. And by hiding it 1 second, it would be easier to hide it and keep on hiding it and keep on hiding it. And I'm a perfect example of that. For 13 years, I hit this.
Well, and your self-knowledge there is a clue that you should keep looking at it, because you've had a tendency to push something away. I think it's time to capitalize on this. You know, you've brought it out and you're feeling better because of it. And I'll tell you, if I'm like, okay, Edgar, like, you're just beating yourself over the head with this, you can actually move on from this. Eventually you will get to that point. But first things first, you've had a tendency to push these things away. Now you're bringing it in. I totally applaud it. And I want you to embrace that and go for it. And you need those answers. You know, if you have questions about you need answers. I used to, you know, it's funny because I had all kinds of questions about me. Remember my walking the walk about, you know, feeling isolated and alone? I had questions about myself, and I didn't realize it, but I buried those questions. I just was like, no, you know, you're not different than other people. You're just having a bad day, or you're looking at it wrong. If I had followed those questions, I would have gotten answers earlier.
You know, Edgar, I just wanted to, I was thinking about your situation, because I was a part of your life and I knew her as well. And people are always quick to say, well, why didn't he say anything? I remember that you didn't get the chance to talk very much. I remember her just being a dominating personality, always quick and always quick with smiling and being friendly and showing the world this big smile. And in the meantime, you know, on the flip side is this, like, I just feel like I've seen, you know, I've been blessed to see your personality even grow in ways that, you know, I thought it was just because, you know, a combination of things. I'm sure you getting more comfortable in your own skin, but you leaving that situation has done nothing but elevate you. I mean, completely different than the person I met. Just even on the outside, you just, you know, I just remember her being very dominating, like most abusive people are, just kind of dominating the conversation and always, you know, making it about the center of attention, and kind of almost trying to overshadow you, almost like to make you not be there. You know, it was a weird, it was, you know, in hindsight, I could say that was a little off. Like I felt like she never let you shine. She always had to, like, keep you in your place. Like, you know, she kind of make fun of you a little bit. I took it as joking around, but she probably wasn't joking around. You know what I mean? So, you know, you know, I'm just saying that, you know, I've seen the change in you in the years that I've known you. And I'm sure part of that is being brave enough to leave. You know what I mean? You know, kudos for having the bravery to say, I love myself enough to remove myself from this situation. And I hope a lot of men take that lesson, that you can be in a relationship. Doesn't matter if you're 7 years, 17 years, 70 years. The day you get out is the beginning of the best of the rest of your life. And, you know, like I said, that I think that bravery I've just seen you change as a man. And I know that has something to do with that.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. And going back to you, Dr. Dan, when you said, I thought that I had moved on from, you know,
right? It's very easy.
I thought I moved on. I hit it and I moved on, and obviously now I see that I didn't. You know, obviously now I waited too long to talk. Going back to you, Eric, and the point that we brought up last week, abuse is not just a physical hit. It's verbally as well. And that right there, it's, you know, you witnessed it yourself. You know, you could tell a man anything and then mentally mess him up completely. But I'm glad that I opened up to you guys about it. I'm glad that I got that off my chest. I'm glad that we got to show our viewers, Dr. Dan, the process. Since you are a professional at it, it's great because I could get advice from you. But just to let the viewers know at home, you don't need a therapist. You know, if you trust someone enough, just let it out. And the people who get these questions, the people who are actually on the other end, because it's not just us talking. If we're gonna talk, we're gonna have to learn to listen to other people as well, and just listen. Sometimes when someone opens up to you, it's not for you to tell them exactly what to do. It's not for you to tell them, okay, yeah, you need to do this and you need to do that. It's just, all they need is an ear. All they need is an ear. Let them vent out, let them talk, try to understand them, try to feel them. And then maybe if you could tell them something, you could. But at the end of the day, it's just listening to people, man. And so I want to thank both of you brothers for listening to me. I know it's going to be hard. It's still hard. I mean, it hasn't left my mind since last week. It's been on my mind more and more. And every day I'll think about something. That's why I asked you, how long should I look for these answers? Should I drive myself crazy? Oh, this is why this happened. Or this is why this happened. Or, so but it's a work in progress. That's how I see it. And I feel good about it. So for everyone at home viewing, it wasn't easy, but I feel good about it. And I don't care how anyone sees it. I don't care what anyone says about it. At the end of the day, that's what I went through. I'm glad that I shared it. And thank you. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Edgar. It's brave, and I think a lot. You can measure whether you should keep looking for answers based on whether it's productive. And if you're feeling better about it and you're understanding more about it, it's productive. So this is great, and I'm honored that you shared it with us. And, you made the point. You don't need a therapist necessarily. I mean, I got better responses from you guys than I did from a lot of therapists. So it's not really about are they therapists or not. It's really about, is it a person who is really listening to you? And I hope that we've done that, Edgar.
Thank you.
That's right. And, it's just continue the process. I mean, I think a lot of people think they see therapy's not like physical medicine where, I just need to be in rehab for 3 months and then my leg works again kind of mentality.
Right.
Trauma isn't healed that way. And there is no set time or set method. It may be an ongoing process. I mean, it is an ongoing process, and it could take years, and it could take as long as it's supposed to take. I think you have to give yourself that time to not let it dominate your life, but allow the process, allow your time to heal, allow yourself as much time as you need. You know what I mean? There is no finish line to this. You know what I mean? I think we should never stop asking questions about ourselves. I think that's the only way we continue to grow, not just to get over this trauma, but just to be our best people. I think we should always be asking ourselves questions, and how could I do better for myself? So I'm just proud of you as a man. Thank
you, brother. Thank you. I'm proud of you as well, man, for being here, for doing your walking the walk next week. We got your walking the walk next week, and I'm really looking forward to that. And then after that, we're gonna start bringing in guests, man. So hopefully, the following show we'll have our first guest, and we could, eventually help more men out, and let people know that you have to talk. The reason we're here right now is because I realized that I wasn't talking enough, and I needed to build a group, and that's what I feel like I'm building with you guys. I'm building a group, and eventually we'll add another person on here that will share their experiences, and we could help them out, and
send in your questions, people. We'd like to answer the questions from the audience too.
I get a lot of people who view the videos, right, and then they'll text me personally. Oh man, great episode, man. I loved it. And I tell people, man, don't text me. Write it on the comments. If you're looking at this right now and you're listening to it and you think of something, just go right down and write on a comment and, ask us questions, and we'll get back to you guys. Thank you to everyone who has viewed and listened so far. You guys are awesome. Keep the questions coming, like Eric said. And thank you guys, man, because I know this 2 back-to-back episodes on domestic abuse was very deep. Next week we'll kick it off with Eric and see what his problem is.
I mean, I think we didn't go into this thinking this was going to be a 2-parter, but the content was such an important thing to talk about that we couldn't just leave it with a brief wrap up of what you were talking about, because it's something that gets spoken about so little. So I think it was our responsibility. We needed to give this topic a little more time, but we'll definitely be My Walking the Walk is next week. And of course, then we're going to bring in our brand new segment, Breaking the Mold, which we've been dying to get out. So I'm looking forward to that.
And like viewers, man, female or male, you know, it's you know, just speak up, man, you know, just speak up on it. And it's crazy. It's crazy. The more I think about it, the more it bugs me out. But thank you, man. Thank you guys for being there. Thank you for listening. I cannot say this enough. I'm at a loss for words, man. I'm just going crazy, just thinking.
There's a first.
That's a first right there, right? That's a first, Edgar. Shut up. But yeah, for all the viewers, man, thank you for tuning in, man. Share this video with your friends, man. If you know someone that might, you know, take something from this, you know, share it. Ladies, thank you for the female viewers. Please let your man watch it, your father, anybody, any guy. I want this to get out there, and I want people to feel like if you are a guy in a domestic abusive relationship, we always say to talk, and we always talk about finding the right person to talk. You know, like not everyone deserves to hear your problems, but when you do find someone that's gonna be honest and is gonna listen to you and listen, that's all we need, just to listen, man. You know, just talk. Don't hold it in, man. Just let it out, man. Let it out and see what comes from it, and you will feel better. You know, because as many questions as I have in my head right now from this whole walking the walk, I do feel better because I know I'm no longer hiding this. I don't care. I don't care.
Good for you, Edgar.
Yeah, great job, Edgar, and we're proud of you. So I'm going to take us out in the usual way.
Yes, sir.
To the audience, if you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and we will get back to you personally.
Yes, sir.
Now back to you, Bill. No, I'm just kidding.
Man, I'm having fun with you guys, man. Till next week, brothers in arms.
Brothers in arms.